Welcome back to another episode of Bitfinex Talks. I'm your host, Ricardo Martinez, and today I'm very, very happy to be joined by Jake Scanlon, who is the founder or co-founder of Terahash and also the Hashpower Academy. Jake, sorry about bungling your intro there, but do you want to explain to the people like what your role is with both Terahash and the Hashpower Academy?
Yes, founder of both. That is a company, Terahash, or the ecosystem of delving into all different things that are related to Bitcoin mining and getting access for people all around the world. And Bitcoin mining is a very technical subject area in comparison to all the finance subjects of Bitcoin. So the Hashpower Academy sort of came about from lots of graphics materials and ways of teaching Bitcoin from a different sort of lens that people, once they start learning it, it opens up a whole new world of perspectives. But yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, thank you for coming, first of all. And then second of all, I would agree with you that mining is probably more technical than your average Bitcoiner gets into. What's curious to me is that before the interview, you mentioned that you actually come from the finance side of things and kind of put yourself through a crash course of learning about Bitcoin mining. Can you kind of describe that journey to us?
Well, in terms of the financial journey I took, it was like how many people learn about Bitcoin, which is there's an economic incentive. Hey, I bought this thing, whether it's I wanted to get rich, and then 1,000 days later, you're questioning the monetary system of the world and all these sorts of things. So Bitcoin in of itself, the financial asset, took me on a journey to learn about finance. But that started from learning engineering at university and seeing the income potential there, not really that great. And so I went into trading and looked at all different ways to trade and build algorithmic systems that ping the API of the exchange and trade. That didn't go to plan. So the journey into mining was a different approach of seeing trading for a few different, what's the word? I saw a few things from trading that was missing from my understanding. And mining, I would say, even if you don't get involved into mining, just learning about mining gives you more information about what you see on the charts as well. We can allude to that as well. But yeah, no, that there's all different manner of things, but finance gives you one particular lens on Bitcoin, but energy unlocks a perception of where Bitcoin's going into the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to get into that for sure. We met at Crypto Latin Fest in Medellin in August. And when we spoke at the conference, you were talking to me about your work with Terahash in creating like mining-based derivatives. Can you kind of give us a picture of what exactly it is that you're working on?
Yes. So Terahash started with this journey of getting into Bitcoin mining. And when you start looking at mining, you're like, well, how much should I get? What type of machine? There's all these endless sorts of questions. And what I understood there is there's a lot of people waving money in their hand thinking, I want to get into this sector, this space of the energy side of Bitcoin, but hitting a lot of technical, electrical, and financial barriers of not knowing which machine to pick, of efficiency, a trusted hosting provider. There's an endless load of different hurdles to jump over. So Terahash essentially removes all of that headache and makes Bitcoin mining a complete like exchange, log in, click buy, and understanding the yield payouts of Bitcoin. But it's structured in a hosted mining way. Now, having the access to even 1 terahash of compute, say $15, $20 per terahash, that gives access to a market where buying a whole machine, just one computer, can set you back $5,000 to $10,000. Now, there's a lot of people in the world, and I quote 90 to 95, or even argue in the current world of excess amounts of credit card debt in the world, that 99% of the people don't have $5,000 to $10,000. How would they ever get access to an industry with computers that are so expensive? So I saw from the retail perspective a need for serving the 99% of the world that may not ever get into mining because they can't afford to. And even just buying a small amount of hash rate and going, okay, I've got this amount of hash power, pay this amount of electrical bill and this amount of Bitcoin being paid out, that gives you so much more education about Bitcoin through its entire chain of that use of electricity, this commodity of hash power in the middle that creates the Bitcoin blocks and pays out Bitcoin on the end. That if you're financially incentivized to learn about the whole chain of different parts of the Bitcoin network, you learn about it. When it comes to people that trade, there's new different ways to understand the Bitcoin price. And you go, hang on, if my electrical bill is 50% of what I'm mining, take that up to the price of Bitcoin. You go, hang on, my production cost is 50% of the Bitcoin price. And then you can start learning about, what's the average efficiency and all these sorts of things of the Bitcoin network. And you can calculate what's the average production cost for the entire network. And then you chart that on the Bitcoin price and you go, hang on, every single cycle, Bitcoin price crashes down to miner production costs. People wouldn't know that about where these floor prices of Bitcoin are or where it's massively overpriced if they didn't even participate in mining. So the Academy takes them on that educational journey, and a lot of people getting excited and wanting to get involved. That's Terahash.finance, the platform side. So yeah, everything's in development, everything's bubbling away, and it's exciting because it's been years and years of work, and it's reaching that point that it's all going to start and kick off. So
yeah, I'm super excited too for the work that you're doing. I think most people that have seen you on social media, on Nostr or Twitter, probably know you more from the Hashpower Academy. Do you want to kind of give us an overview of what you guys are doing at Hashpower Academy?
So the Hashpower Academy takes you through that educational journey of learning Bitcoin, not from finance. Everyone seems to learn about Bitcoin from the history of money, which is a completely sensible way to do it. But I would argue that the future of Bitcoin being an energy-based monetary system, that is, where does it come from? Every Bitcoin was mined, and underneath that, electricity was spent. Even from the dawn of time to Satoshi, he didn't log into an exchange like Bitfinex and click buy. No, he produced it himself by running energy into a CPU. Now, the mining industry is so young. You could argue that as an industrial scale industry, it's only 10 years old. So we are so early and so new. Now, what that suggests is that education is paramount, because if we're at adoption of 1%, 2%, 3% of people financially into Bitcoin, but barely 100 Bitcoiners out there, maybe two to three of them are mining adoption is like 0.00 something percent of the world. So the 99% of the world out there that would have to start with education, the best place to sort of learn about Bitcoin from its entire chain of energy running into computers and all the finance side, that's what the Hashpower Academy teaches in a nutshell. It takes you on a journey of why we need energy, all the different power sources, renewables, non-renewables, to electricity grids. Why are they stable? Why are they not stable? What causes problems? How do we finance the build out of more grid and all that infrastructure side of things, to the computers? And then it takes you all the way through the chain of all the different pieces of Bitcoin, and then you learn the finance bits last. And what that does is, what I say is, it connects all the subject areas, because many different people talk about Bitcoin and spend many hours onto it. But when it comes to learning all the different keywords and all the different subject areas, the key one being the difficulty adjustment. Mm-hmm. If you try and learn the difficulty adjustment after a bunch of finance related topics, it's very difficult to learn. But if you started from the energy side, and then that compute power being produced from the energy, and changes in the compute power, the network hash rate, adjusts the software to make it, raise difficulty or lower difficulty, and then you go on to the finance bits, it all starts to click. And once you've connected the entire chain of events that bring Bitcoin into existence, from watts to sats, then you can go really in depth and in detail in any subject area, because you've had that fundamental knowledge. And that's really where it delves into.
Yeah, I think it really just gives like a technical foundation for people learning about
For
Bitcoin.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
So I find what you just said very, very interesting, because a lot of Bitcoiners that I know don't mine or haven't mined. One, because the barrier to entry financially to buy the ASIC machines is very, very expensive. But two, they think that it's no longer profitable, that there's not that many Bitcoin left. And they have kind of this negative view of Bitcoin mining, like only the huge corporate mining farms like can truly be players in the Bitcoin network. And you're saying something that sounds kind of contradictory. Can you kind of explain why you've come to the viewpoint that you have?
Yeah, it starts with a controversial statement that I think payouts of Bitcoin from the production of mining is the least important and least interesting part. It sets a pricing system for all the other commodities in the chain. That is that we've got these large scale miners on the electricity grid here in Texas where I'm at. And I just went to a meetup and they were talking about particular companies earning, I think 70% of their income was from energy trading and the 30% from Bitcoin mined. So it's not, basically what I'm trying to say is that the future of Bitcoin mining, and there's all these concerns of, yes, we're coming up to the last 1 million Bitcoin that's been mined, to be mined, and it's locked in physics, whilst everyone else is trying to grab as much Bitcoin on the treasury side with finance. And if there's this ability to trade energy on the grid, because the grid will pay more than what you could use the power to make Bitcoin with, or stranded energy in the middle of nowhere that industry has left. There's no buyer of the energy, but they have production, such as a hydro dam that's been built decades ago, but they haven't got enough consumers locally. That there's all these opportunities that maybe the big guys are too big to justify deployment there. So it really brings it back to that decentralization aspect of, if there are smaller opportunities for people that are more profitable than buying public mining stock shares or participating in that side of things, it comes back to education. But what I would say with what I'm doing, the Terahash side of things, is what if instead of 100 of us looking at buying one machine at some retail expensive rate, if you were able to all purchase into a pool of machines, and Terahash on that side of things is going to go and buy 100 machines in one large order as a more strength in numbers approach, that trying to get those scale of economy benefits that people would look at versus hosted mining on an expensive rate, expensive machines, and that payback period might be concerning. But what I just said about those other opportunities of stabilizing grids or even heating systems, I think that to the individual is one of the most important areas of the future of Bitcoin. And this is because I'm going to cite Tyler Stevens here, which is a book that he wrote. And it's a guy that he's talking about the fact that if 1% of global energy demand was powered from hash rate heating, Bitcoin mining computers of any size and scale as heating systems, if we just heated the world 1% of its energy demand with mining, it would add another zeta hash. It would double the network hash rate that it is today. Now, that changes the economics of mining, because it's not, I want to buy $200 a month with this miner and make $400 a month with Bitcoin. It's, let me combine that machine with, in Latin America, they call it lavanderias, a place with loads of washing machines. They need electricity and hot water. So that system of, they already have a business with costs and revenue. So if some of those costs can be shared with a Bitcoin miner and a tiny bit of revenue on top with Bitcoin mined, well, now they have Bitcoin mining as a heating system to keep a tank of water nice and warm. So the laundry business always has hot water, and their energy use is being shared by two revenue streams. So it's not thinking of mining as buy power cheap, mine it at a higher rate. But in the future, it's how mining can create cost reductions in an existing business and make more money in comparison to those other businesses. And the thing is that that business example will not be something that that a large scale industrial miner will be able to do, because you're sizing what you're trying to buy for heat, not for money or for energy. So yeah, that's just one example of thinking of Bitcoin mining and the ability to generate revenue down to the individual, but in unique ways that serve individuals, people going into a business. And yeah, so what I'm trying to say is Bitcoin from a systems perspective is finding its way into all these other industries as a sort of auxiliary heating system, stabilizing grids to make more revenue just by grid stability, stranded energy. And that's only going to play out to demonetize the large industrial scale miners, because that example I just gave of that existing business, that yeah, they can make a small amount of money on their energy need from the mining, but they need heat. They don't care really yes, they'll care about the price of Bitcoin and what they're mining, but because they're combining it and creating a cost reduction in an existing business, they can be profitable, whereas the large industrial scale miners with the next halving and the next halving will become unprofitable. So you're going to see the large industrial scale miners potentially sort of burst like a mushroom and release all their computational spores out to the world, and they'll find themselves into heating systems as one example. But again, most people won't be able to perceive these sorts of ideas if they've just studied Bitcoin from a finance lens, because these sorts of opportunities are going to pop up. But those that learn about it are going to be first to the table when it comes to how much sats they can earn. And yeah.
Well, that's an interesting observation. Another thing that I've noticed is like with these industrial miners, like when the S19 starts not producing as much Bitcoin, they'll buy like a S21, right? And they'll swap out their fleets. And then we've also seen like the rise of like nerd miners and bit axes and these little like tiny ASICs that are more like retail focused. Do you see like these opportunities that you're describing kind of meeting the demand for these older machines and these like personal like tinier ASICs?
Yeah, I like to call them mini miners. Now, the first thing to say is that they are an educational tool. But I believe someone did the numbers that if you spent like the $400, or that they're getting cheaper, $200 on a mini miner, and the odds of winning a block is, I think, statistically better than if you spent $200 on lottery tickets. Like there's a better odds, I believe, that you would mine a block of $300,000+ of Bitcoin.
I've seen several like news stories of people with like a tiny mini miner hitting a block. Like I've seen more than one, so it does happen.
I always seek to push the truth, and I would say there's a couple of those that they go and look at the account. Oh, they had 40 petahash, which is, you know, the thousands of terahash. So they had the equivalent of thousands of mini miners if you sized it like that. So it's not to say they had thousands, but the point is they had a lot more hash rate than just the mini miner. So some of them, but I think there's been a few lottery winners, and that's great. But the key bit of what I said was it's an educational tool. And if overpaying your first terahash, pricing it, saying you're spending $200, $300 on a single 1 terahash, but the hosted miners drops that down to $20 to $30 to $10 a terahash. So when you go from learning, okay, I plug this little device into the power, okay, it's using electricity. It's got this gigahash or terahash metric on the screen. What is that? And then you're plugging it into the Wi-Fi network side of Bitcoin. Then you're connecting it to a mining pool, that way of earning payouts at a quicker rate. Oh, and then it's auto withdraw to my wallet. So I've alluded to this in a video that you're going to learn more about Bitcoin with one of those mini miners than 100 hours of education, because you've seen that entire chain of energy use, hash rate made, shares submitted to a mining pool, and the little payouts to your wallet. You're seeing the whole commodity chain from what compute to sat. And once your understanding of that whole chain is there, you can start using it with your trading strategies, with your investment approach, your understanding of public mining stocks, if you want some extreme volatility and stuff like that, whatever direction people want to go, or a person that already has a solar battery system on their house. They go, hang on, I need energy, I need heat, I've already got the system paid for, or they're looking to get one. I could have a mini miner setup, or not mini miner, you could have a whole ASIC, and your use of that ASIC is just heat. I'm cold in the winter, turn on the heat. I'm already producing power, but now I'm getting paid Bitcoin for my wallet. So if people start with a small device, and that educational tool opens up a wider scope of what's possible for them, and they're creating cost reductions in their life, because something I allude to as well on the investor perspective of mining is what mining teaches you from a Bitcoin perspective is everyone in this world, in this fiat inflationary world of everything going up in price, is we're all trying to get paid more. So what takes it away? The cost. So you're going to get paid more, then the bills, energy-derived bills, take it all away. So this focus on finance is only half the story. Creating cost reductions in our life is where we widen that margin of our savings, which people save in Bitcoin is the best savings technology. But costs coming into it is that, mining opens up the understanding of Bitcoin price and costs, and that can be into your life, the trading charts, to some form of system that you want to build or buy. There's a full scope of different things to delve into, really.
I've seen several different like Bitcoin miners use the excess heat for different creative uses in the way that you're describing. One of them I mentioned to you was a mining company out of Norway that were using the excess heat to like heat homes, or like subsidize the heating of homes like during the winter. Another one that I mentioned was Bert de Groot from Bitcoin Brabant, who was using the excess heat to heat greenhouses to grow tulips in the Netherlands. Like, what other kinds of uses for heat do you envision like companies to start adopting in order to reduce costs in the way that you're describing?
Oh, well, laundry, that's going to be the first. I think that's going to be a low-hanging fruit. Okay. Because it's just piping hot water into a system that already manages what water it needs at what temperature and whatnot. So whatever you feed it, it's a software system designed to wash your clothes, and that's a whole business. And so I feel like if you observe any form of business that has a need for an energy input, which is just about every business, and a use for heat, now that the next question becomes at what temperature. If you need something that's going to boil, say water or anything else, or your mining's not going to do that. In Celsius, it tops out really providing like 80 degrees C, and that is close to boiling. So what can be done there? Anything of a need to boil stuff, the mining can preheat the water.
What about like the submerged miners that use like that dielectric fluid? And,
the only problem there is the cost of that fluid versus the comparison to the hydro-cooled miners. So it's water running through the system. So you need some aspect of heat exchange. But even the normal machines, which are air-cooled, people are drying fruit in, I believe, Paraguay, which is when the fruit's really ripe. Because a lot of the export of produce, as the example, they actually send a lot of fruit from, say, the Americas to the UK. I've always, I hate buying fruit in England because I know it's like unripe, because they have to there's a certain amount of time that it has to be sent. So if the fruit's already ripe in that country, there's no value to it. So there's people drying the fruit with hash rate heat, just hot air blowing out the computer, filtered hot air. So it's good for that. And then drying, say, mango and slicing it down to little, dried mango chips and stuff like that. So it's creating economic value from waste. And that's true.
There's a beef jerky guy like that on Nostr as well.
Beef jerky, it's endless. And this is the whole thing about the Hashpower Academy, that I'm going to start a whole series called Bitcoin Businesses. And the great thing about Hashpower is it connects to the energy side, it connects to the financial side of Bitcoin, and it's the technology component that bridges the two worlds of the physics and financial digital side. And what that means is I can delve into every sort of business case of an exchange, a mining pool, a financial entity such as an ETF, all the way down to the energy side of, I went off to Midland, to middle of the oil and gas Permian Basin, the fundamental inputs to different uses of heat, the full scope of every area. And the reason why I want to do this is because it's the same with my teaching approach. You can have a class of 30 noisy students, or 29, shall I say, and that one person that whatever they've watched, listened to, heard, seen, it just clicks with them, it resonates with them, and they're excited and they're passionate. I want to do that. I want to try that. So finding those people that they watch a story, any different business area as an example, and they're inspired to want to do that. And the video taught them enough about how it works, the cost, the process, going to say New York, where there's a sauna spa, for example, that they use Bitcoin mining machines to heat the water for all the pools and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that's amazingly inspiring, but take the example of 100 people out there that have that business or want to build that business. They watch a video like that and go, hang on, I can make the economics of the business better with a computer, which everyone knows computers run hot, and plugging it into my business and figuring out which people I need to do it, or investors that might want to get involved, build the system and create opportunities. And then what happens there is this, I call it hyper decentralization, which is when people realize that the economics of Bitcoin mining and that access to that last million Bitcoin comes from all different types of systems and other sectors beyond just energy. The network hash rate will accelerate to an extreme.
Couldn't like an industrial miner kind of mimic these strategies, like with industrial processes? Like say there's a factory that produces, I don't know, widgets, and they have energy inputs, obviously, to mass produce the product that they're making. Like, couldn't an industrial miner kind of like mimic that strategy and also benefit and make it more profitable?
I'm sure that many of the large scale miners will pivot to having more investments and systems and patents. And that's the other one, is I'm sure someone's going to try and, crowd out everyone else, and that would be kind of hindering Bitcoin. I think Elon's approach of open patents could be arguably an opportunity, but to your point, it's rife opportunity, because if the example I always use is there's the technology deflation. What was the cost of taking a picture 100 years ago? What's the cost of taking a picture now? It's nothing almost. So technology is on that deflationary curve, even with inflationary money. And on the technology side of things, why this works is because when it comes to the idea of heating systems, you're not looking for the brand new latest machine, because latest machine is most expensive. Like the latest iPhone is the most expensive. So you need maximum uptime with the latest shiny toys, like Jack Dorsey's proto rigs coming out next year, which are incredibly interesting for what they offer to industrial scale mining, which you just slip out the old hash board and plug in a new one instead of having to re-engineer everything around the machine, which is what happens quite frequently with every new generation coming out. It's a different size, or it needs different equipment to keep it powered and whatnot. So there's opportunities, but because it's the large scale miners are buying in bulk, cheapest machines, infrastructure at bulk, power in bulk, they're really seeking that scale of economy gain. But the example of the heating system side of things, that aspect of scale of economy is not as prevalent, because you can use the old machines that are really, really cheap and subsidize just some of the cost. But because the old machines, like the old iPhones, they're pennies on the dollar versus what they were brand new. So you're still making the economics work, but with a computer that's 1/10 of the price or something like that. So
Yeah, that makes total sense. We're running out of time. My final question for you is, I've noticed like a lot of these miners, like large scale miners, have been also pivoting to like processing AI and using that as like an additional revenue stream. Like, do you see a continued synergy between like artificial intelligence and industrial Bitcoin mining?
Oh yes. Yeah, that's the whole video in of itself, but I'll boil it down to this. The sort of body, mind, and soul of Bitcoin is the energy, technology, and financial aspects. But the body, mind, and soul for AI, and it connects, which is sort of the body is robotics, the mind is all the neural network, machine learning aspects, and the soul is energy. So none of it works without energy underneath it. And in this world, the energy and money are now indistinguishable with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is what I would like to call now like the special forces of energy production, because the incentive is like, hey, with AI, we've got to massively expand how much energy we produce to power all this AI compute that we want to create. But here's the key thing. It costs $1 to $2 million per megawatt to plug in Bitcoin mining. So that creating that loop of the thing that consumes the power to create the money to produce more power to that circle. But with AI compute, it's 10 times the price. The computers per megawatt are like 20, 30, 40 million dollars per megawatt. Wow. So you're going to build out energy quicker with Bitcoin mining. And then we're seeing over time this sort of like co-location, which is you got a site that's got a mix of different of Bitcoin mining and AI. But that's just the energy layer. When it comes to the compute layer, it's okay, I've got these two different types of compute. Which one pays me more? The Bitcoin network or the jobs coming in to fulfill tasks with AI? And then the financial layer, which is in a world where AI has to be this infinite intelligence, is it going to use dollars, trusting a bunch of humans in Washington or wherever they are going, what's the interest rate? What's the price of human time and energy today or this quarter? And no, they're not going to trust that. So if they have money, Bitcoin, that they can exchange with energy, the very thing that keeps them alive, we're going to see AI and Bitcoin communicate at the energy layer, at the compute layer, and the financial layer for the settlement of jobs and tasks. So
yeah, and then additionally, there's going to be like an AI, like agentic economy that's going to like machine to machine is going to be transacting with each other as well with like microtransactions. That's very interesting insight.
Oh, many different layers, but just a quick point is on Twitter, I've started a hashtag BTCKWH, which is Bitcoin per kilowatt hour, which is I see that, with mining, selling power above the rate that people are earning Bitcoin per kilowatt, and they're buying energy below. It's the price of energy is going to coalesce to Bitcoin per kilowatt hour. But AI has got its own revenue per kilowatt or megawatt hour. And I see eventually they're going to become parity, almost the same way that you can send your hash power to Bitcoin's network or Bitcoin Cash, and they keep the hash price of both of them get close to each other. So there will be this convergence with energy as the key settlement layer, because that's what keeps the AI online. That's the fundamental input. So massive subject, but yes, extremely interconnected.
Well, thank you so much for that response. I wonder if Bitcoin is going to be the fulfillment of Henry Ford's prediction of an energy-based money. The way you describe it makes it sound like it will be.
Yeah, Muscle Shoals, there's a mining site there that I want to look at as well and go through the whole history of energy-based money. And it goes back even further than that, I believe. But there was a chemist that saw that everything in society had energy-derived costs from production down to consumption. But another massive topic.
Jake, before we close out the interview, would you like to give Terahash's social media website and also the Hashpower Academy social media and website for those?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter X. I'm on LinkedIn. But the main areas are on YouTube, the Hashpower Academy, and the website, which is terahash.finance. And so that's the educational area, learn everything, anything, all the different subject areas. delving into all different weird and wonderfuls. The Hashpower.academy website, there is a free course on there called The Big Picture Basics, which takes you through that entire story of just like when you open a religious text or scientific textbook, both start with bang or let there be light. So you start with energy and you go through the whole Bitcoin network all the way to how Bitcoin comes into existence and the financial side of things. And what this does open up a full scope of different things that are, the future of Bitcoin, I would argue, of energy-based planetary money. And then Terahash.finance is, well, now you've learned the physics layer of the commodities that connect. We're building a financial layer on top of the physics layers of Bitcoin. And that is essentially, you wouldn't call it a layer 2, but it's a layer underneath the blockchain coming into fruition with Hashpower, which is essentially the banking commodity of Bitcoin. It manages issuance and settlement of Bitcoin. So it's a very interesting area that opens up many different opportunities of different products, markets, services. But the key thing is access. Small investors can get access to Bitcoin mining. The large investors will get liquidity because making Hashpower fungible. So it's traded on an order book. And then people within industry looking for more ways to earn, more different consumers, such as someone saying, hey, I want to have my hosted mining machine turned into a heating system. So there's a customer that wants a system of Bitcoin technology in their house. They need to find someone that can build the system, the compute they already own from our project. So it's just connecting all different people to what they need, what they want. And it's in the first innings. So it's incredibly exciting stuff. Terahash.finance. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jake. It was amazing talking to you. It was very enlightening to hear your perspective on mining. I appreciate you doing the interview.
Appreciate it. Hope to come back and we'll talk more.
Yeah. There's so many things that I only ask surface level questions that I'd love to delve into deeper.